All right, we are live. It is a live edition of the Wrap-Up Show with John Schaefer and Jim Russell, presented by Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. If you haven't subscribed, the reason to do this is for year-round exclusive Padres content. You see Jim right now pointing down below. Hit that subscribe button. There's a notification bell as well. Every time we post videos, you'll be notified. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. You can follow us on Twitter as well, at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Before we get started today, we have so much to get into on this Padres manager search, and why won't the Padres interview Ron Washington? Before we get started, if you're looking for auto, home, renters, or life insurance here in San Diego, you got to turn to a San Diegan. Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. He's our title sponsor. He's got over a decade of experience helping people like us find the perfect insurance products. What separates Mark from the competition, I caught up with Mark actually yesterday in his office. It was great to catch up. His whole staff, great customer service and communication. You can click the link down below in the description. You'll get to Mark's website. Let him help you and your family with your insurance needs.
And if you want to reach out to him and you're wondering, how can I do that? All his information is right above my head here. His number, his office location, and his email address. That's the best way to reach him. mnimitz@farmersagent.com. That's mnimitz@farmersagent.com.
All right. If you have questions for us today, get those in right now in the comments section. We're going to get to those over the course of the next 30 or 40 minutes. We're trying to catch you up to date on the latest with the Padres manager search. And Jim, it has been quiet. One question we've asked before, and we're going to ask again today, is why won't the Padres interview Ron Washington? Obviously, he was interviewed 2 years ago when they ended up going with Jace Tingler. Not only was he interviewed, we were under the impression that he finished second. He was a finalist for the Padres managerial job in 2020. That went haywire based on the ending for Tingler. He was fired at the end of 2021. So a finalist last time around who's had so much success as a manager and as a coach, and is coaching right now in the postseason with the Braves. We've heard from Kevin Acee and others that it does not appear likely that the Padres intend to interview Ron Washington. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I don't know. I really don't know. It's confusing to me. Doesn't make any sense. If he was a finalist last time, like, why is he not being interviewed this time? Like, what has changed in just 2 years? You know, and I see videos, and I posted about it yesterday, of like Ron Washington working with Freddie Freeman on just basic infield drills. You've seen not quotes, but like sources and players and saying that they would like Ron Washington to be their manager. Machado liked an Instagram post saying that Ron Washington should be the next Padres manager. He's been on Extra with Darren, and Marty's interviewed him multiple times. He just seems like a guy that fits, a guy it seems right, but yet I just don't know what they're doing. Like Matt Vasgersian, perfect example. He was on the other day with Darren, and he's not really like in the loop. So Darren told him, like, looks like Ron Washington's not going to be interviewed in San Diego. And the first thing out of Matt's mouth was like, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing? Get it right. And if you're not going to interview Ron Washington, you're not doing it right. I'm sorry. You just have to interview every single person, even though you've already talked to him before. And do it. Interview the guy. I don't see what the big harm is here. He seems like a really good fit, and you're just gonna, we're gonna go a different direction. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, I feel like for a lot of people that follow this team and that live and breathe it, I think Ron Washington would be seen as a really desirable choice. Maybe not the first choice. Maybe that's Bruce Bochy, understandably. But if Bochy's your long shot, and if there's any indication that you can't land him, and there are some indications that you can't land him, you got to have other options. And maybe one of those is a Mike Schilt. Okay, he's had success, no question about it, the last 4 years in St. Louis, although the way he departs St. Louis is at least somewhat concerning or problematic. Organizational differences, right? Differing philosophies. And you're going to go work for AJ Preller. That to me seems somewhat curious. We'll see. Outside of that, Aaron Boone's locked up. Also outside of that, all of a sudden the Cardinals have an opening. We said that the Padres had the best opening in baseball a week and a half ago because it was Padres and Mets. Padres arguably do not have the best vacancy right now in baseball because of the St. Louis Cardinals. So, if you can't land Bochy and you don't get Boone, And I'm trying to think, I mean, why wouldn't Ron Washington be on that list? Now, Mike Schilt can be on that list.
Mhm.
You can have a Jeff Bannister who's managed in Texas on that list. There are others that deserve maybe consideration. Shoot, Skip Schumacher, we've talked about before. He could very well be interviewed by the St. Louis Cardinals. We've heard that. He could be interviewed. I mean, doesn't he deserve an interview with the Padres, despite the fact that he was on the staff of Bo Chase Tingler and Andy Green? So there's some names out there. But in terms of the most preferred name other than Bochy, I think Ron Washington is right at the top of that list.
Yeah, he has to be. He has to be for a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons you said there. But besides Mike Schilt's name being thrown out there, it's been dead quiet. And I don't know if they are still, if they're waiting for things, or if they are still making up a list, or if they're still like in the early stages of interviewing people. We know interviews are happening. Like I know people are being interviewed right now. Some news today actually that dropped. Bobby Dickerson officially has left the Padres, and he will now go to the Phillies coaching staff. So that's a loss. He is the only other manager, or not manager, but only other coach who was under contract for next year. So it just seems like this is a cleaning house type of situation with the Padres coaching staff if Bobby Dickerson's gone. So yeah, I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense to me. You're banking on maybe now Bochy, and if that's your white whale, like if that's your guy that you're going to go after and go after hard, then that's great. And then I understand not interviewing Ron Washington if that's the case. Like if they went out hard for Boch and you don't interview Ron, like, okay, I get it, but if you are undecided and if Bochy's not your guy, but yet you are going to interview a bunch of people and then Ron Washington's not on that list, then I don't get it at all.
I mean, let's think about what's gone wrong over the last year, and then you got to consider candidates that prevent that from occurring. Communication, obviously, with Jace Tingler is probably priority number one. Lack of experience as both a manager and a player, therefore maybe lacking some credentialing and credibility in that clubhouse with a veteran team, which the Padres are. We've talked about that. The Machados and the Hosmers and the Myers. Shoot, Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be in his fourth season in the big leagues in 2022. You need some credibility, in my opinion, in that clubhouse. Now, Mike Schilt, I thought, we've talked about this. I thought Mike Schilt did really well considering the Cardinals were criticized for not doing a lot at the deadline. I mean, they added more than the Padres did, in my opinion, with some pitching, but not some huge, frontline pitching. Guys like Jay Happ they added. And I thought he was able to right the ship with that clubhouse and get him playing, obviously, great baseball by the end of the year. But you need someone that's a good communicator. What's interesting is when I read some of the stuff on Schilt, is communication was cited as one of the reasons why the front office wanted to part ways with him. So I think communication is key. Experience is key. Previous managerial experience and winning for me is just so valuable. I mean, you can't do this again. I mean, yes, you could hire someone that played for 20 years in the big leagues. We mentioned a Carlos Beltran. Yeah, that's immediate credibility. Someone that relates to players within your clubhouse, I think that's valuable. But outside of someone with that 15 or 20-year career, you got to go with a previous manager that's won. Not just a previous manager, but a guy that has won at the big league level. And because of that, there's not a zillion guys out there. Ron Washington's one of them. Mike Schilt is one of them. Jeff Bannister, 2 playoff appearances in 4 years with the Texas Rangers, has the tie to AJ Preller. You could argue has some of that skill set, but I don't, there's not 100 names out there, Jim. I mean, Buck Showalter obviously has won a lot of playoff games, hasn't won the whole thing. We've mentioned John Farrell before, who's won a World Series. His name doesn't seem to be really tied to the Padres right now. So I don't know how many guys really fit the mold of what they need. Communicator, experience, has won postseason games.
You named pretty much all of them there. A name that I've been thinking about that could maybe be a potential candidate, but I haven't heard anything. Like it's just a name. Is Ned Yost. He former manager of the Royals. I mean, if you can't get rid of Eric Hosmer, at least you have a manager that has worked with Hosmer before, and that relationship is good. Because if you're going to keep Hosmer, you need him fully on board, and you need him to, I'm not gonna say bounce back season, but there needs to be improvement there with Eric Hosmer. And if you can go out and get a Ned Yost, who's won a World Series, been to multiple playoffs before. I know he retired, but that's the same. Bochy retired as well. So we're talking about two guys that said they've retired. And I don't know how old Ned Yost is.
There's no such thing as retiring, by the way, from baseball. You know, I mean,
Right.
there's no such thing.
You're always in it. You're always in it. I think he does a podcast too.
He's 67, Jim.
Okay.
So he's not old by today's definition of managing. I mean, look at some of the managers currently in the postseason, including Dusty Baker, who's 72.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's a name that I would throw out there, like in the manager's pool. I don't know. I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if they've even discussed that. I don't know if that's even an option for the Padres, if they're maybe looking the younger route. But yeah, that's another name. Will Venable. I don't know if you said him yet.
Absolutely. No, I didn't say him, but that is because he's on the bench of Boston right now, right?
Mm-hmm. He's another guy, but again, you're going with another first time manager. You know, it's like, okay, well, I like Will Venable a lot, but third time's a charm, maybe. I don't know. That's why it's scary to think that while I like Will Venable a lot and I would like Carlos Beltran, you're still dealing with first time guys. And that's the reality of the situation is this team needs somebody that can manage them through a full 162 game season, through the ups and downs, who's been through it before, who knows if you lose 7 out of 10 games, this thing's not going to go into a slide. If by chance in the trade deadline, players' names are out there in trade discussions, you're not going to lose the clubhouse. You're not going to have guys seem like they've quit on you. You know, that they need that in that clubhouse, a guy that can stabilize everything. Is that Will Venable? Is that Carlos Beltran? First time guys, former players, you know, with good major league careers, especially Carlos Beltran. Is that enough though? Like, is that enough to turn this team around? Guys that they may be first time guys, but hey, they actually played in the big leagues for a while.
Well, it's possible. I mean, by the way, we're going to be joined by a potential candidate on Monday. So there's a reason right now to subscribe to the wrap-up show. Yeah, a little bit of a tease. We're going to be joined on the wrap-up show on the YouTube channel by a potential candidate for the Padres managerial gig on Monday. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We'll let you know about that episode that will launch on Monday. What do you got?
And just a hint, we have said his name during this podcast already.
Oh, we've said it today.
We said it today. So one of the names we've said today will join us on Monday morning.